Last but not least, let me introduce to you Marieke Flament, the CEO of the NEAR Foundation. She is an absolute female powerhouse. She has worked for LVMH, Boston Consulting, Expedia, Circle, and then now, of course, she's heading up the NEAR Foundation. But I do not want to take any of her time. Marieke, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello. Thank you for staying here, for being here. It's always humbling to hear your own intro. Hopefully, you had a great day, and hopefully you've learned a lot, and you've actually seen how close the future, of how near the future that everybody here is envisioning is actually starting to happen and to be presented. So I'm delighted to be here and to present to you a little bit of the vision that we have actually for the near future. I'll start by telling you and by explaining a little bit how we think about NEAR and what actually NEAR is. So at NEAR, we believe in decentralization. We believe that the world will actually be a better place if people can control their assets, their data, and their power of governance. That means creating an open web world. That means shifting a lot of what we see today and actually making that happen differently so that people can actually truly own the content and the data that they make. The NEAR protocol is a layer 1, so that's the space within which we are. And not all layer 1s are created equal, but actually NEAR was created in 2018 at the bottom of the bear market, the last one. So we are right now in 1, it's probably not the last one, and there'll probably be more. But NEAR was created in 2018. The fundamental principle on which NEAR as a layer 1 have been created, number 1 is actually simplicity. It is of utmost importance that actually if we want true adoption, if we want to get to billion, bless you, users, Laszlo, if we want to get to billion of users who are actually going to use the blockchain, we really need something simple. It's impossible for anyone to actually remember 64 digits. But it's possible to remember marieke.near, or to remember your last name and .near and something like that. So that's what simplicity means to us. Simplicity also means simplicity for developers. There are tens of millions of JavaScript developers and very, very few Rust and Solidity developers. NEAR is actually enabled for JavaScript developers. Through the principle of actually sharding, and we are proof-of-stake blockchain, that's actually very important, not proof of work, fully sharded. Often we are called what ETH 2.0 will be, or could be. And so through that, NEAR is actually extremely scalable and secure. We have over 100 validators and a number that is continuously growing and increasing. Those fundamental features enable us actually to be truly climate neutral. I believe we were one of the first actually protocol and layer 1 to actually work through being fully accredited and audited. We're super proud to work with South Pole on an ongoing basis, not only to look at the footprint of what our chain is doing or what our validators are doing, but also to think through the ecosystem. What's actually the carbon footprint of the ecosystem? And guess what? The highest carbon footprint usage is actually us traveling, something to remind ourselves that sometimes we criticize the technology we use, but ultimately, we are the culprit. Anyway, super proud to be partnering with South Pole, but also this means that as a blockchain, we've seen more and more projects being built on NEAR that are trying to change also and help what's happening on climate change. Our ecosystem is continuously growing. Today, we have over thousands of different projects. I think over 600 of them are continuously being registered and very, very high quality. Over 300, 400 DAOs. It's continuously growing. But the way we think about our ecosystem is to think that at the core of it, you actually have the protocol, which is open source, and on which different infrastructure players can actually play a role, continuously help actually enhance and create more goodness for the protocol. For example, Pagoda is a Web3 tooling for creators and entrepreneurs that want to build on Web3. Aurora is what we call our EVM machine, that's Ethereum virtual machine. It means that whatever has been built on Ethereum actually can be translated and brought to NEAR with the economic and the scalability of NEAR, so pretty powerful. On the right-hand side here, what you can see is actually how we actually continuously decentralize our ecosystem. And so at the bottom, you have the foundation. That's the part that I lead, and some of my colleagues who are here, we work on. But we're not the only one. We're just a pebble within actually a very large lay of the land of different pebbles. We think through regional ecosystem funds. We believe it's actually very important to have local presence. Yes, we are in a very global world, but it's still a privilege to this day to speak English. So nothing replaces actually having very local community. We think in terms of ecosystem funds. There are specialists out there who know everything about entertainment, who know everything about NFT, who know anything about DAO, while we try to actually empower them to distribute. Proximity Lab is one of such ecosystem funds. They are very focused on DeFi within our ecosystem, and that's what they do. So, as a foundation and not, again, I think it's one thing that's fascinating within the crypto blockchain ecosystem space is that there is a lot of different crypto foundations. There is a lot of different ways to actually go at tackling the same problem of decentralization and actually harnessing the power of what we have and how we can actually help at the adoption of the chains that we work for. So this is the view of how we think about a foundation at NEAR. The foundation exists for three main things. Number one is actually we're here to help raise awareness of NEAR. And that means actually we do that through education program, but also through the creation of events, and also creating strategic partnership that can actually help show what you can do with the technology. The second pillar of what we do is supporting projects that want to build on NEAR or entrepreneurs. And for that, we have a large grant program, but also we can actually help refine and actually help other people find within our ecosystem the place where they should be going. And the last path is governance and decentralization. I think it was interesting on the previous panel actually to hear about what the future role of regulation should be. And we should make no mistake that actually regulation has a very important place. It's at the end, ultimately, it's to protect consumers. And yet there is still a clash in understanding between actually what protocols and what actually different players within the ecosystem are trying to do and where regulators come at. So we believe it's of utmost important that we make our share, that we actually try to help also explain what we do and that we collaborate on that front. One of the large things that we believe is important is also educating, right? So the whole space needs a tremendous amount of talent. And not only actually just developers, but just talent in general, right? We need economists, we need marketing people, we need people who actually understand what good user experience is. So there's a humongous amount of talent that is needed within the space. And so as a foundation, we invest a lot of money into actually creating the next generation and actually trying to help people understand anything super simple from what is Web3 to actually more advanced certification on becoming a Rust developer, for example, on NEAR. Today, we've trained over 50,000 students. We distribute grants, and we have different programs and courses for that. The second product that we have is funding. We have under asset over 800 million in funding that we can help distribute to different projects and different founders that come through. And we've created and launched different ecosystem funds. But not only that, we can also help refer projects actually to our backer network. To date, NEAR has raised over $500 million in dollar, and so we also have that very deep network. And again, on the panel before, it was mentioned that to go through the winter and the round that's happening now, it's actually important to have the capital and to deploy that very smartly. Well, we think we have the capital, and now it's ours to actually make sure that we develop that to get to the adoption that is needed. And the last point I wanted to show on actually the foundation is the regional hubs. And again, speaking English is a huge privilege in our world. Not everybody does that. And so we work very actively with local communities to enable having translation and material that is actually available in local languages so that community can crack the local problems that they see and also train the next generation of talent. So if we think of what the near future is, and actually that's probably a vision that is shared across most within crypto and within blockchain, it's a lot of different things. And I want to talk about three things. One is actually how it's changing access, how it's changing community, and how we think about self-organizing, and how it's changing actually incentives. And so the goal of the second part of the presentation is to show you some of the examples of what we're seeing starting being built today on NEAR. How do we empower individuals by eliminating gatekeepers? One first example, today if you're on Instagram, the first thing you do when you sign up is actually you give up your content. You give that up to the platform and you actually say that this content is not yours anymore. Well, Minter is trying to flip that on its head. What if you had actually an Instagram whereby the account truly believes to you and the pictures truly believe to you, and if you want to sell pictures or accounts, you can actually do that. So that's one such example. Capsule Social is a fascinating example of how can you actually write and actually earn when you write, but also have a better and fairer share of the content that you're writing when you're voted up or voted against. Tamago is a platform that's cracking a problem that a lot of people are trying to crack within the blockchain and crypto space, which is how can you, if you're an artist and a musician, get a fairer, better share of the music that you're creating. So this is going after how can you actually decentralize players, for example, such as Spotify. So those are some of the examples trying to show that actually very actively on the Near blockchain today, you have cases that are being built to actually decentralize very large players. Community. The 9-to-5, very hierarchical company is gone. And DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, are playing a huge role into that, in helping communities and people who share a common interest to actually participate and work together on that. On Near, we have over 400 different DAOs that are very active, and one platform in particular, which is called Astro DAO, which is extremely simple. In a few clicks, you can actually start setting up your group and have a multi-sig wallet whereby people can actually participate and start working together. But some people thought that was not enough. So Niche, which has ex-Bumble actually team founder, is aiming at actually making that a step even further and making the adoption of DAO looking like social media. There's a whole movement actually of recreating social media and thinking about that completely differently. And the last example I wanted to share here is when the Ukraine war actually started and happened, we created in less than 2 hours Unchained DAO, which is actually became a full NGO in less than 2 hours, raised close to 7 million, and these funds were able to be distributed extremely fast to the endpoint of where people needed it. So very powerful example, which was led by our founder, who is Ukrainian, so absolutely admirative. Incentives. Thank you for him. Thank you. So incentives. There's a whole flip happening in our society. Internally, we call that X to earn. Learn to earn, walk to earn, write to earn. That shift is happening, and that's enabling us to actually rethink how we spend our time and how actually we can truly leverage the potential that we have. Learn Near Club is such example. Forget about the days when you have to pay for going to university. What if actually if you learn, you earn? Open forest protocol, extremely powerful. What if you reforest, you can actually earn? And all of that can be put very transparently on the blockchain so that the carbon credit that you create and that others can actually earn is very transparent for all to see. And the last example I wanted to share with you, we've been partnering with Sweat and Sweat Economy, and it's basically an app that some of you may know. When you walk, you get sweat points, and that app, up to very recently, was just what we call Web 2, so it was not actually on anything crypto. They've chosen Near as the underlying platform that has enabled to create, in less than a couple of months, 7 million wallets, and so now you have, this is the fastest onboarding in the crypto world from Web 2 people going into Web 3. And this is creating a place where if you walk and if you're active, actually you get rewarded for doing that. So hopefully healthier people. And that's that. But my point is here, I'm sure you've been very inspired by the content that you heard from different people, and thank you so much for being here for the last talk of the day. But the future is near, and it's actually closer than what we think. And yes, we are in a bear market, and it might be long and it might be brutal, but actually the capital is here, there is a lot of talent, and actually there is no better time to build than when we're in a bear market. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions if you have questions. Yes.
So you showed us a lot of great examples. What about gaming?
Oh, okay, so the question, I've been told I need to repeat the question. Thank you for the question. You showed us a lot of great examples. What about gaming? We are very actively looking at gaming. We actually have a guild which is called Human Guild that has over 60 different games that are being developed. And so it's something that I could have mentioned. Yes, it exists. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
Like a lot of the protocols focus a lot in decentralized finance, almost exclusively. What the take of NIR regarding this part of the ecosystem?
Thank you for the question. So the question is, a lot of protocols focus specifically on DeFi. And so what's the view of NIR from that? I didn't talk specifically about DeFi. We do have actually a lot of DeFi products that exist. The reality is, if you think of what a protocol or an economy is trying to do, is actually reinvent an economy and a society. And you can't do that unless you actually have functioning markets and finance markets. So I would say NIR has been late to the game of DeFi, and now we actually have any and every product that you could think of, from loan lending, DEX, and so on and so forth, but very active also on that front.
I'm thinking of signing mechanisms when you go through a web browser. Do you kind of pass through MetaMask, or do you have another mechanism?
So the question is, what's the mechanism when you go to web browser, and do you go to MetaMask or other? So here's how things work in the crypto blockchain world. That, for example, for NIR to be in MetaMask, this is like an infrastructure partnership that needs to happen. So we're not yet in MetaMask, would be my answer. But we do have our own wallet, which is Web Wallet, and actually fully available. And you don't actually, the Web Wallet of NIR is extremely simple, and probably one of the simplest things to use that is out there. Yeah. Yes. Great question. So I talked about DAO, what's actually the governance of the NIR Foundation. So right now, the governance of the NIR Foundation is, I would say, much more traditional versus being fully on-chain. We are working on that. And so, for example, to give you a concrete example, our grant program, when it goes through, right now has something that looks like a DAO and needs to be actually developed as a DAO. I would say we're less advanced than other chains, and we have work to do on that front. But that's definitely the aspiration. Thanks for the question.
May I ask
Yeah.
a question? You mentioned that you support web developers with assembly script, which is like TypeScript. But my question is, where would you recommend to use Rust instead of assembly script?
Okay, thanks. So question, assembly script versus Rust, where would you recommend to use what? And so I'm not, I used to be a computer science engineer, but I sucked, so I stopped. Thank you.
Script is a really good choice.
Okay.
But then there are some materials on NIR communication that recommends to use Rust. And I just want to figure out what's the answer.
Well, I think, so here's my humble opinion. I think actually there is sometimes a bit of purity, and it depends actually what's best for what application. And what we see is that for some more core applications, it might be actually better to go to Rust. And for others, it might be actually better to go to assembly script, would be my... But I'll come back to you. Something more solid next time.
Well, I think we may end on the technical note now.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
A little
Thank
bit
you.
of a Swiss chocolate
Thank you.
for you. Thank you so much.